Hello and welcome to the Drywall Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Harmon. Today on the Drywall Podcast, I'm very excited to announce the third sculpture artist of our 3 sculpture artist series, Bernie Mitchell, out of Buckhorn, Ontario. So if you've been living in a cave or are just completely unaware of who Bernie is, he made a video with Brian Kitchen of Drywall Nation many years ago that ended up going viral, and he found himself in the San Francisco Globe newspaper.
So I went up to Sudbury. I spent 3 days. We did a sculpture. I had a trout jumping out of the water, and I did a little waterfalls and some hills and trees and whatever.
Yep.
And Brian pitched it out, and I'd be damned if it didn't get picked up by the San Francisco Globe newspaper. They put it out. They put it out in their art section, and like just within a couple of weeks, it was like 2 million views. Okay.
Bernie is totally awesome, and we cover a lot of various topics, including how his father influenced him, his love of woodworking, and color and joint compound techniques. The Drywall Podcast was brought to you today by Fresco Harmony. Fresco Harmony, making walls better since 2004. Without further ado, Bernie Mitchell on the 29th podcast of the Drywall Podcast. Let's get into it.
I'm on a job site here.
I like it. Is there anywhere that's comfortable? I have that bench, too, that looks just like my bench. I have one like that I won in a poker game about 20 years ago. I still use it. Those things don't die.
Yeah, that's about as long as I've had these two. I got a couple of the triples also, and I like it because you can stack them up, eh?
Right.
Yeah.
We have Bernie Mitchell. Bernie, where are you located right now?
Just north of Peterborough, Ontario. So we're about an hour and a half for an hour and 45 minutes northeast of Toronto.
How are you doing today?
Good.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you really well.
There's a bunch of awesome drywall art people out there. Drywall art's kind of a blanket statement. I mean, you're more of a sculpture artist, do you have formal background as an artist?
I don't.
You don't?
But not unlike you. I was painting, when I was in my teens, painted pictures, and I got into the leather work through my father, and so I was doing a lot of relief carvings.
Okay.
I was doing wallets and belts and that sort of thing, right? And that went into doing pictorial carvings, and I did a few of them. So on larger pieces of leather, 24 by 20.
Okay.
Where you do a full image, full scene pictures on them, right?
Neat. Your dad was a leather person?
Well, he lost his sight when he was in his mid-40s.
Okay.
So he was doing leather work through the Institute for the Blind, right? So I helped him along there too with lacing and that sort of thing.
Okay. Interesting. How far along was he into the leather stuff before he lost his vision?
No, he got involved with the leather work after he lost his vision.
Fabulous.
Through the CNIB, he would lace up moccasins and wallets and curtains and all that sort of thing, right?
Okay.
And then we'd go down to the local farmers market every Saturday and set up a table and peddle it.
That's pretty cool. You'd help him out with that stuff.
Yeah, well, we all did that were at home at the time. We all assisted with them, and it was all good. It kept them active from somebody who was very active as a plumber and a tinsmith. He was a very busy man, and
Right.
when he lost his sight, that was devastating, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Tough time for your family, I would imagine. How old
Yeah.
were you? How old were you at the time?
I think I was 13.
Okay.
when that
Formidable.
happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big deal. That's a big deal. And your dad, is he still with us?
No, he's not. He's been gone for many years.
Were you close with your dad?
Yeah, I could say I was. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was very
Did he teach you a lot about art?
Uh, I have in the past. I did a deal down at the art school in Peterborough here, and we run a class through there. It just was a little much for me because I'd have to go in there on a Sunday morning and cover everything with a tarp and move all the tables away and then move them back in, and I didn't really like that part of it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't mind helping the people and instructing them. That was a pleasure,
Yeah, yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And if
Art's
I was gonna
cool.
do it, I'd rather bring people right to a job site. They'll just pick a wall, and when we're done, we'll just take it off, right?
Just scrape it right off. Yeah, yeah. Or just screw a piece of drywall to the wall, do your
Oh
art,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
unscrew the piece and take it with you when you head out.
Put our hands on with it. It's very simple. Just to
Yeah.
unscrap the wall or anything, right?
Sure, sure, sure. Art doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be complicated, you know? You can use the
No, but
materials that are sitting right in front of you.
yeah, it's just keep it simple, eh?
Right, right. Thank you so much for joining me today, Bernie. I know you're busy, you're working. Is there so for our listening audience, Bernie is on the job site. It looks like you're getting into the seams, you're taping some seams. And
I just finished the front end area here this morning, so I've got this back area I'm going to lick up here now. So.
Yep, I assume you do. Do you do seams before butts, or you do butts first, then seams and angles?
Oh no, I do all my flats and butts. I run my butts and then run my flats and then run all my angles. Yeah.
All right, pretty standard. Pretty standard.
Yeah.
And do you have people that are working with you there? I hear some voices in the background.
Well, there's some fellows downstairs hanging some board.
The hangers.
I'm not old school. I still run a bazooka and everything.
Nice. What kind of bazooka are you running?
Colombian.
Columbia.
This bazooka's it was brand new in 2003.
Oh, funny. So you've been running that one a long time.
I have, and the one previous to that, I got 18 years out of it. Eh? Or
nice.
No, not 18, 13 years out of it, maybe.
So that one's a good 33 years old. Your old one.
Yeah, but I don't use it anymore. But this one here, like I said, I've been running it since 2003. But I don't share. It's just me, so.
Right. You take care of it. You take care of your shit. It'll last longer.
Yeah.
Right. Let's get into it. So how long have you been in the trade?
Since 1976.
76, the year I was born.
I just finished my final exams and for grade 12, and I hitchhiked out to the Western Canada. And got on a job site and hooked up with the drywallers, and that was it, eh?
How did you find the drywallers? Were you put in that department?
I insulated a bunch of homes locally here where I grew up.
Okay.
So I had a good bit of money, and then when I got out there, I had a really good time in Jasper, which is a mountain town out there, eh?
Yeah.
In the Rockies, just west of Edmonton. And then when it was time to get to work, I hooked up as a laborer on a job site, and there was 118 condos to do, roads.
Yeah.
They were in 8-plexes. So I did that for about 6 weeks. I worked for them before getting on with the drywallers because I needed a place to stay. And they were supplying, they had an apartment. Well, they had 2 apartments for the guys on the job. Hey, so that worked out real well for me because winter was coming on and I needed something other than a tent to live in. So.
Right. Nice. So, oh man, we have, if people don't know, Bernie Mitchell you gained a lot of popularity. You are the third of 3 sculpture artists that we've had on the show. Keith Patterson, and also Jason Griffin is another drywall artist out of Colorado, and his show has aired. And Bernie, you're number 3, so that's pretty cool. There's 3 of you guys. A question I always ask is, have you listened to any of the Drywall Podcast episodes?
I've listened to all of them except for, I think, the last one. Maybe the last 2. Yeah.
Couple last. Good. So you've listened to a bunch. You're enjoying them.
Oh, I am. Yeah. It's a great thing you're doing here. I think it's plus, you know.
Thank you.
Really good for everybody.
Yeah. And when would you say that you listen to the podcast? Do you do it on the job, or do you do it like in the car on the way to the job? And also, what platform do you listen on?
All 3.
All 3.
I think it's Spotify is where I caught them. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So for our listening audience, Bernie you gained, man, I don't want to jump ahead, but I'm so excited to get into like sort of the art stuff. When was the first, so you're a drywall finisher, you learned how to drywall finish. You're obviously attracted to the medium of joint compound. And when would you say the first sort of inkling of this sculpture idea started to take form? Did you see something? Did you scoop out some mud and like maybe some mud was smeared on the wall and you started rubbing your hands in it and all of a sudden a form appeared? What happened?
Well, how it turned out, I started at a home that we had completely renovated. And on a little narrow wall, I was doing some inside picture frames with scallop corners of mud. So I just smeared it on there, cut away my perimeters, and give it the scallop corners inside scallop way. And then I was using, I tried using material in that, like wheat, barley kind of stuff. You just press it in. So I got a mud impression into the material.
Yep.
And with that, it took off because I was familiar with relief carvings, right? So,
yeah. You were like, here's a fabulous new, did that occur to you? Like, this is cool. This is kind of a new medium that nobody's doing art with.
Yeah. Well, just that raised image that I did. The scallop corners, right? That raised panel look on a wall that was adjacent to a main door coming in with windows in it. The relief was powerful, and I only put on, like a small amount of material on there.
Yeah,
right? An inch thick, but you could see the effect of it. Okay?
Right.
So it just grew from there, right?
Yeah. So what was your second or third art piece after that? I mean, you were aware that there's this cool medium. Did you immediately start to do the artwork onto existing surfaces, or would you do it on like pieces of sheetrock or something? Did you start playing around at your house? Pieces of drywall.
Pieces of drywall. Yeah.
Okay.
And see, I had books for the relief carvings in leather that were full pictorial. They were books with all kinds of images in it.
Okay.
And so I drew from that. So I did bighorn sheep. But when I started doing these, I was only putting on, a half an inch of mud. like small amounts.
Why were you
And,
going so thin? Why were you going so thin to start?
well, I'm a drywall guy.
Yeah.
I've been a drywaller for a long time.
Yeah,
Even
you're
at that
breaking the
point. And,
you're breaking the rules, Bernie. You're breaking the rules
so
already.
I know what mud does, right?
Yeah.
And but if you're using if it isn't really a fresh batch of mud, it'll come out just like clay out of that box. Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like some of it's
Yeah.
just like rock hard, right?
Yeah.
And if it still dries the same, it'll still shrink crack.
Yeah.
It'll shrink back and get that crevice in there. But when I started really putting some bulk to these things, and I was using a little water mist and a spoon. I do all my modeling with a spoon, really.
Yeah.
And so any muscular area where you get those creases to show the image of muscle, that's the weakest area, the thinnest area, and that's the area that would crack and shrink. But you can go back and continue to fill those kind of voids,
Right.
Until you've got a solid material, and really, you can't remove that. That's some solid stuff on there. Right?
So, were you using Quickset or Ready Mix when you first started?
Just a ready mix, right?
Okay.
Like we didn't have any Quickset up there. I never seen any setting compounds other than Durabond until I moved to Ontario here in 1998. So then I started using the setting compounds in with the mud, and that changed things again, because then you don't get any of the shrink crack at all.
Right.
It wants to set up as a solid.
Yep.
It takes some time for it to dry, but you know that you've got a complete product there,
Right. That's awesome. So this was about, what year would you say this was when you first started to the quick setting? You're saying like 98, but when would you say you first started doing sculpture?
I think it was like 92. 1992 when I really started to play with it.
I did my first one was in the Union. It was like 2000 and I would say 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And it was different. They brought out color. I was in a Union class for an apprenticeship class, and they brought out color, and they brought out plaster, and I instantly made a mural. We were supposed to be doing like these textural effects, but I made like a monkey head. like I sculpted a monkey head, and I still have it to this day. And it slid, and I just loved it. It was instantaneous. I was blown away. But then after that, so my first piece was plaster. After that, I just switched to mud immediately because I didn't like the plaster.
Yeah, I've never had any experience with plaster at all. I couldn't tell you the characteristics of it at all, but I know my muds pretty well, though.
Yeah.
What I like and what works for me, that's for sure.
I don't think there's too much difference. I mean, really, I think there's some chemical differences there. But there's some properties that are different, but I think the working with it, I'm not a huge plaster guy either. But I mean, your powder quickset is essentially plaster, in my opinion. I mean, it's very similar.
I built a rig when I was up there, because I worked in a sawmill. I still drywalled about 4 or 5 houses every year. And I really enjoyed it because I had all the tools anyway. And I really got to experience a lot of new things. I got to experiment in people's homes because I knew these people. And so what I was going to get at was I built a rig that I found at the mill in the electrical shop. So it's a light attachment with a threaded piece through the bottom. And I don't know what they would have used this for in the mill, But right away, when I seen it, I knew what I could do with it because I could use it as a compass. So this thing then screws right to your light box. I welded on a little piece of pipe, put a hole through it, welded a nut on this little piece of pipe.
Yep.
So it's telescopic, so you can use like a 1/2-inch conduit, and I can
Yep.
run it out any length I want to do circles on your ceiling.
So maybe it was like a like medallion, right?
Yes.
Like a decorative medallion.
Exactly. And I was doing that with straight mud, right? And letting it, doing a heavy application of it, letting it dry. And I was able to, because I was cutting my pieces out of 3 by 6 inch tin, light gauge metal. And I'd cut my profiles in that. I'd whip it in. I'd let that dry, and then I'd sand it off a bit, and then I'd throw another coat of mud on it using a paintbrush, and then whip it in. And it was a process for me, but I would have liked to have done it with a plaster, I think, because it would have been a much better
right.
It would have been done in one shot, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
The process for me using regular drywall mud, right?
So would you say that was your introduction to doing artistic concepts in people's homes, was these medallions?
Yeah, and I was using a buddy of mine that lived in British Columbia turned me on to the bullnose bead, which I'd never seen before. And I was gonna do a basement for the fellow that owned the lumber yard up there, and I was telling him about this stuff, so he ordered it in. And that was like 1985.
Okay, yeah.
So I was using this stuff. When I got used to using that bullnose bead, I was even running like a ribbon perimeter mold. I was using the bullnose bead. So you crease the paper back on both sides.
Yep.
And you snap some lines, run it up there so that you have that little bit of a ribbon mold around it. And then my medallions around the lights and knock down the ceilings. It was very attractive looking stuff, right?
Okay. Yeah, yeah. That was it. That was a segue into taking these relief sculptures onto the wall.
Yes.
Very cool. Do you remember your first relief sculpture paid, where somebody paid you? And how did you get that? How did you get that job?
Well, I was doing these things in the homes that I was drywalling up there. And it's a small place. There was like 3,500 people lived there, right? but I became well known pretty quickly. Yeah. And I think I kept a little book of it too. I think I did 65 sculptures there. Some of them I wouldn't be happy with today, but you have to start somewhere, right? And
yeah.
So I did them in commercial areas also. I did a big one at an airport in high level there, where the baggage comes in. It was about 17 feet long.
Nice.
By 9 feet. So I did caribou, black bear, Canada geese, and a pelican.
Yeah.
This is extremely north. This is like parallel to Juneau, Alaska, but just east of us by about 100 miles. Pelicans, brown pelicans actually come up there, and there's a lake where they nested on an island.
Cool.
And, lots of the local people didn't even realize that there was pelicans there, but
so they know now. They know now, Bernie.
Think of it as a tropical bird, right? But here they are that far north, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
So you're still doing drywall, and you're doing these sculptures, and you're offsetting your income a little bit. You're getting known, but it wasn't until what happened that really cracked it open. Was it Drywall Nation. How did that work? Where you just like I know that there was a piece that like really catapulted you into like social like you went viral.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about that process a little bit. Had you been to Trimtex by then already?
No. This preceded that with it was through Drywall Talk, and I'd already been on Drywall Talk. That was my first social media thing that I got involved with was Drywall Talk, I guess.
You told me I met you through LinkedIn, and you told me about Drywall Talk, and I went on Drywall Talk. I think that was the first time I was marketing Fresco Harmony. I was listening to a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk, and he was like, post as much as you can, post on all of the social media platforms. And I remember I went on like LinkedIn and I followed Walls and Ceilings magazine, and I posted an article, and it was about colored mud and this new, you know, and you saw it and you were like, you got to check out Drywall Talk. And I went on Drywall Talk, and Brian was there, and Ice Rock, all you guys were there. And, you know, it was kind of a shit talk fest.
Yeah. Well, you know, I was on that for about a year before I didn't even know how to upload an image. I couldn't upload a photo, you know?
Yeah.
And when I did, when I learned how to upload them, I uploaded, maybe a half a dozen sculptures onto Drywall Talk.
Okay.
And everybody, it seemed they wanted to know more, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And by that time, Brian had joined Drywall Talk also. And he was doing, I think he'd already been doing a few videos of tools.
He was really progressive and on the front end of that whole tool, you know, game. And Drywall Nation grew really quickly.
Yeah, that was after too. Drywall Nation. Yeah, that was a few years even after that. Right?
Yeah.
But anyway, some guy said, why don't you guys get together? And Brian lives like 5.5 hours north of me. He lives up in the Sudbury area. But anyway, I thought, what the hey, we could do this. I'd never met him before, but decided, well, I'm going to travel out and see my daughter. She lives out that direction. So
okay,
but I'll hook up with Brian. Maybe we'll do a sculpture here and throw it out there.
Yeah.
So I went up to Sudbury, spent 3 days. We did a sculpture. I had a trout jumping out of the water, and I did a little waterfalls and some hills and trees and whatever.
Yep.
And Brian pitched it out, and I'd be damned if it didn't get picked up by the San Francisco Globe newspaper. They put it out. They put it out in their art section, and like just within a couple of weeks, it was like 2 million views. Right?
Yeah,
it went crazy with that, right? And I don't even know how that one ended up, but it was somewhere 7 or 8 million views on it.
What was that paper again?
Years ago. I can't even find it anymore, so I don't know what happened there. You'd have to ask Brian about that. I'm sure
what was the paper?
The San Francisco Globe, and they have an art section in the Globe, and that's where it went out ballistic. And one of the images that was part of what they found on my website or whatever, because somehow it got shared into this somewhere along the line, and some lady in San Francisco actually knew the people. In fact, just 5 minutes away from where I'm at here, where I did a sculpture in their home. I drywalled their home, but I did a sculpture in it, and the lady recognized it, and she lives in San Francisco because she knew these people.
Yeah,
kind of nuts, eh?
Yeah, small world. So what happened after that? I mean, did you start immediately getting? I know you were on a lot of different platforms after that, and probably doing a lot of interviewing. Did you get, I mean, what was the biggest interview that you've ever done? And then did you start, I mean, because it's like, to me, Bernie, you should just be doing like sculpture art for a living and getting paid the big bucks in like Dubai or something. Am I wrong?
Don't kid yourself. I priced stuff over there. I haven't capitalized on it. I priced work there, and the same in Abu Dhabi,
Okay.
Qatar, Jordan,
Okay.
Maui. Geez, price stuff all over the place, really.
Yeah.
Just never capitalized on it. And to tell you the truth, it wasn't so much that video, but it was the second video that went really nuts, and that was the one with the wolf, and we did that 2 years later, right?
Okay.
I don't know.
You and Brian did
Yeah,
another video.
Yeah, Brian came down to my home and stayed with us for about 4 days, and we did it in the neighbor's garage, and we did the wolf sculpture. And that particular sculpture, I think it might have been 1 million or so on YouTube, but what happened is it's like the Wild Wild West, right? And people started ripping it off of there and putting their own music to it, threw it out there.
Yeah.
Like, different servers, and one of those servers was at the time it was called Insider Art. Now it's called cultural art or something. I don't know. Cultural
Okay.
Insider. But it was like it was already 25 million views within like 3 days, and they didn't even have our names mentioned on things, right? They didn't know who it was. They didn't know who Brian was for making it or anything like that.
WTF.
That server, well, it ended up, it went like, right now, it's like 123 million views on that. Right? So
Yeah.
I was getting pinged from all over the world
Yeah.
about this, right? And yeah, it was too much. It was too much for me, really.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
It was over the top for me.
How so? What do you mean? What do you mean it was over the top?
I was intimidated by it, right? I'm still just a drywall guy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I really am. And
it probably felt good though to get recognized and to get that appreciation.
No question about that. But it was intimidating that these opportunities that were coming in that I felt were just way beyond me, right? Like I said,
why weren't you like $100,000? Sure, I'll come down to wherever. I charge you $200K. You didn't throw out anything like that. Like I'll just throw out a number in the stratosphere and see if they go for it.
We did have one in Abu Dhabi that was up around 45,000, I guess.
Okay.
And
all
I
right.
really wanted to do that job. And
yeah.
And the design company that was representing the client, they were all happy with it, and they thought the client was too. They thought they were going to go forward with this, but they didn't.
Yeah.
And, these sculptures aren't for everywhere, but this particular opportunity, it was like the perfect location. It was a big wall. It was 15 by 25 kind of thing.
Right.
And the only way that you would see this images, it was always going to be straight on for this large room. So
okay.
It would have been impressive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed about that one.
So that one fell through.
Yeah.
Have you done other jobs where you've traveled, you bid, maybe, and they've accepted the price, and you've done some neat traveling places to do projects? Okay, so more locally.
Yeah. For the most part, most of my work is local.
Okay.
I have traveled, 4 hours, 5 hours away kind of thing, but
sure.
take a bed and breakfast there or whatever, and do the work.
But you're still doing drywall though. Like shouldn't you just be doing these art sculptures for a living? What the hell, Bernie?
I like what I do.
I know. That's kind of a rhetorical question. Bernie likes to finish drywall. That's why you're on the Drywall Podcast, buddy.
I found out a long time ago that the sculptures that's not something I can do every day.
Well, why can't you?
All in the image and where it's located, what I'm doing. And I just have to be all in to be excited about it and just attack it and do it. For me, just to go from doing one and go to the next one and go to the next one, that's not possible with me. It's kind of a stressful thing when you're doing them in a person's home.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's not super hard work, but it's really exhausting, mentally exhausting. Because you really have to study what you're doing, and you've got to show progress through all of this too, and so it's really something that is pretty draining, right? To me.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of artists out there, and I know they've run with this idea of using the products I'm using. And I knew they would once this was out there, but that was the whole intent, was to share this stuff, right?
Yeah, no, that's a good answer, Bernie. There's a lot of energy. You still like to do drywall, and maybe it's the simplicity, the straight lines. I look at it almost as like a meditation.
I like my music, and I also like to be creative with it still. Any opportunity I get to build a wall unit or fireplace or any decorative area that I can incorporate into a home, I will.
You've done some fantastic, and I've seen trim techs like drywall art, as they say, where you're using reveal beads, step bowls, and things like this, which I think are cool. I love that stuff. It's a lot of fun. It's very challenging. I've done quite a bit of that. I did 2 houses with the step bowl and some reveal bead, and it was it was a lot of fun and very challenging. Almost as
they're great,
That's so cool.
My favorite thing to apply in a home or a fireplace or anywhere. You can do a lot with it.
Now, how do you go about selling? Like, if you're on a job, is that something where the client sort of approaches you and they're like, "Hey, man, we want to gussy up this fireplace. Do you have any ideas?" Or is it something that you sell? Like, "Hey, I've got some cool shit that I could do here if you guys are open to it."
When I was in business for myself, now I'm not. I work for a fellow once in a while, that sort of thing. I've laid back off of it because I couldn't commit to the big jobs anymore and the amount of work that I was doing. I had a reputation for doing that sort of stuff. All my work was referral work, and it was constant. And so I had those opportunities. People are always open to new ideas, and I didn't get extravagant with them. I kept the ideas simple, but just something that we could incorporate into the home to make it theirs, just like the sculptures.
Yeah.
And I didn't encourage the sculptures either, unless there was a specific location that wow, it would do big things in this home.
Sure.
There, and then I would approach them about that.
Sure. So maybe suggestive at first, like, "Hey, man, that wall is extraordinary, and that stairwell. Have you considered doing sculpture there? I'm not sure if you know. I'm Bernie. Yeah. I'm super famous for sculpture art. You should definitely have one of my pieces on that wall. And I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse." And then also, I mean, with the drywall art, like similar kind of thing. Like, "Oh man, this TV wall could be really cool if you put a reveal bead around the entertainment center or something."
There's so many things you can do.
Yeah.
Just to, expose an area to something interesting other than just straight line walls, right? And I really believe I really believe people are looking for that sort of thing. These sculptures, they're not for every home. Most of my work is shoreline properties, right? And always was. And we get to see ospreys and blue herons and loons and Canada geese and everything else on a daily basis. And those images on those properties in the right place, it just fits, right?
Yeah.
It really does. And so it makes it easy for me to encourage them, not encourage them, but just even suggest that, hey, it would be interesting if we just put one on there,
Yeah. Yeah. And you're still selling some of them today?
I'm still doing them, yeah.
Yeah. How many?
I've got other interests, right? So
like what? Like what? What's Bernie up to now?
I like woodworking too.
Okay.
So,
what are you doing with wood?
Well, some years back, I built a cedar strip canoe. And
nice. Okay. Now you're talking.
And we use it a lot.
That's an undertaking, huh?
Yeah, it's a major amount of work.
Yeah. How long did it take you to make a canoe?
I don't know how much I put into that.
Long time.
It's not something that I would sell. I wouldn't build to sell.
No.
Thing like that. Not this, my seats, my yoke, and all of that. That's all, select wood. I use like dark walnut and butternut and laminated these pieces together. It was a lot of work, right?
Oh, I'm sure it's beautiful.
It's mine.
Yeah, that probably something that you hand down that stays in the family.
You're exactly right. Hey, and my son's got dibs on that.
Yeah, I'll bet he does.
And our daughter, like our kids, our son's 40, and I guess our daughter's 39. And
okay.
She also lives on the water, not far from where I am right now. And
okay.
She loves to paddleboard. So I took on the task last winter and I built her a paddleboard. Right?
Okay. Yep.
The same way, out of the red cedar and mahogany and maple, butternut. I've got a lot of different wood in it, right? It was quite a project.
Yeah. I would love to get a photo of the canoe and the paddleboard for promo for the show. I think, and I would just like to see what they look like, man. Do you have some nice?
Right on my, I think you'd find them on my Instagram.
On your Instagram. And what's your
on my own page, which is Bernie Mitchell on Facebook. I might also have them on the artistic one, which is Artistic Drywall by Bernie Mitchell. That's another Facebook one I got too. It's got a lot of we did a lot of backcountry travels. You might do a half a dozen lakes on the loop, right? And book your sites back in there. We had to stop a couple of years ago. My knees started giving me a lot of problems. So doing a lot of these portages, we had to keep it short.
Yeah. So you like to travel around, take the canoe with you?
Yeah, well, I'll show you where I am here.
Yeah, let's have a look.
Well, we're located on the Trent Severn system here. So if you've ever heard of the loopers from the States, they would do the loops. They do your interior waterways. They also come up through here, right through here, the Trent Severn system. You would go through, maybe 25, 30 locks, but you could go from Lake Ontario right around to Georgian Bay, and then they'll go back over and go in through Chicago or, wherever.
I haven't heard of that. No, that sounds absolutely awesome. My parents, my stepdad and my mom were sailors. They did the inside passage up to Juneau.
Some of them are residential homes here, but lots of them are still cottage homes, and the people spend the winters down in the States, right down in Florida, down here.
Yeah. Yeah, where it's warmer. Although
Yeah.
it's pretty cold. It's pretty cold here these days. I've had fires every night for probably the past 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
It's snowed here a couple times already.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that you got snow down there.
5,000. We're at over 5,000 feet elevation.
Oh, that's your elevation? Oh,
Mhm.
you are. I had
Yeah.
no idea.
Santa Fe is 7,000 feet.
Wow. I
Yeah,
really didn't have idea, Nick, that
Yeah, people are at misconception. It is a desert, but it is considered the high desert. So it's a different. There's different elevations of the desert, which is very interesting. But
okay.
yeah, it's cool. I like the high desert because it's warm, but you still get the seasons, and it's a different. It's a different cold. Very dry. It's not humid at all.
Well, that's
Yeah.
kind of nice. In this particular area, it's a damp cold, and it's up to the humidity and everything. But where we lived in Western Canada, it was a dry cold, and like I said, we were on the same parallel as Juneau, Alaska.
Yeah.
And when we got cold, we had 40 below stuff for a couple of weeks at a time sometimes, right?
Yeah.
You can dress for it. Everything's pretty crisp. You got some tires that got a flat mark on them when you drive down the road until they loosen up, right? Dumping.
Crazy. And I grew up in Washington State, so I'm familiar with on the western.
Oh, I guess.
By Portland. So I'm familiar with the wet cold, and that's what drove me down to the Southwest.
I guess it just goes right through you. You can
I was 23. I was 23, and I was like, I'm out of here. I'm gonna go where it's warm. I'm done with this shit. I moved to Arizona. I was in Arizona for a couple years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a question. You were saying that when you started with colored mud back with those plaster guys or whatever back in the day.
Yeah.
Was it stains you were using or was it paint?
No, they were pigments that we were using.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We started out with pigments. Yeah, like regular standard pigments. Although they were all so originally the deal was there was like an apprentice contest where you would go and they would figure out who was the best finisher. They actually had a contest in the union, a national contest to see. And one of the walls would be an artistic wall. Well, when I made the monkey, like everybody was blown away by the monkey, and they're like, "Oh well, Nick's gonna win because he's like made this like crazy ass art piece," and I made it in an hour and a half, like the length of the class. Yeah. Well, after that, this is kind of a funny story. After that, every time I went to the apprenticeship class, I just headed straight for the pigment locker. And I just started making art. Like I was like, this is great. Oh, I can spend every apprenticeship class just working on colored mud art. Then that's what spoke to me was like, oh, 3D relief colored mud art on a piece of drywall. I was calling it drywall art right out of the gate. Oh, I'm making drywall art, but it was like, how do I frame these? Because the very first piece I made, I installed into a wall. I removed the existing sheetrock and I patched it into the wall. Just being a drywaller, that was my natural thought. It was a sunset piece, and it was kind of abstract. My method was very abstract. But here's the irony. I think that the reason that the union was doing that was to explore new avenues of texture and finishing, which I ultimately came up with. I remember in the union, they busted out Elmer's glue and they showed us how to do, you can roll on, I don't know if you know this, you can roll on Elmer's glue and then you can do mud over the top of it and it slides and cracks. Like you can try this. Oh yeah. And I didn't come up with it. They taught me that in the union. I mean, this is what I'm doing with Elmer's glue now.
Just to give you an interesting idea because you get these crevices in the surfaces, right?
Like, so yeah, I mean, we're doing art pieces now with like I ended up doing these crazy, I just started using the Elmer's glue as a medium for art, like, and doing like crazy ass, like, because Elmer's glue is cool. You can do all kinds of cool shit with Elmer's glue.
Yeah.
But like the irony, so I'll finish the story. The irony was that the instructor of the paint class got mad at me because I was making fucking art every time I go to the class. So he like locked him up, and I was like, well, and I just went and I bought my own colors and I started doing colored mud art like on my own. And it wasn't about anybody doing it for anybody. I just thought it was the coolest thing since sliced bread. And I just started making art pieces because I was naturally artistic and I just thought it was cool.
Yeah.
But from that came a new textural method using colored joint compound that the union has nothing to do with that. I mean, you would have thought back then that they would have nurtured that type of energy.
With your colored muds, I did a lot of ceilings where I was doing knockdowns. In Alberta, everything was finished with just popcorn, or you started doing knockdown, and that's all I wanted to do. I did not want to put on any more popcorn or anybody. So, but you know, I'd run my perimeter, I'd scallop the corners, I'd have my rings, but I was allowing them to sometimes take the wall color up the ceiling then around those perimeters with the scallop corners.
Yeah.
Where I would have those rings.
Yeah.
And I was painting the ceiling a color and then introducing that same color into the mud. So I had a two-tone effect. Which I done a whole lot of.
Sure.
But I really found with regular paint pigment, it takes a lot of paint. It takes a lot of paint to tint up mud, depending on the colors that you're using. It really does.
Because paint is already a thing. Paint is already diluted, if you will.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of it, and then you're also altering the chemical makeup of your mud when you add all that paint. Yeah. So I mean, people think that I'm using paint, but I'm really not using. I'm not using paint. I mean, I don't want to get into what I'm actually using, but I knew. Yeah, I mean, you know, but it's also not stain. It's also stain has transparency. You can equate stain to translucency. So we were using a water-based acrylic to seal the surface. Now on your images, like if you wanted to bring out a patina on your relief textural work, you could have used like a sponge and pigmented some water-based varnish. And then you could bring out a patina that way, which would look really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you're talking about just a wash and that's like a thinner or a product that you would use if you were thinning down your acrylic paints, right?
Yeah.
For painting. That acrylic.
Not even like a wood stain, Bernie. Like just use like a water-based wood stain, something that doesn't discolor. Now, where I learned about that was because after I finished making the monkey, the painters took it because I was like, how are you going to seal this? So what they did was, and the painting instructor told me, because I asked, I was like, what did you use to seal this? Because I went in the next day and the painting apprentice class had taken my monkey, and the painting instructor demonstrated how you would seal this, and he used a water-based varnish, and he did it clear, and they sprayed it because it was all those contours, so they sprayed it out. And then I was like, oh, okay. So to seal my artwork, I started using water-based varnishes, but only to seal.
I like what you were doing. I told you the last time we spoke, I couldn't access the acrylic anymore that I used to get from Bear or from Home Depot.
We've got hopefully this thing works out with CSR. I mean, I've been trying to get into Canada since you bought a color pack so long ago.
I think this is a great move for you to venture up here and meet the fellows up there. They're really good people, and I just think it's really going to help your business out.
Oh yeah, I mean,
especially with you doing some on-site work with it, and
yeah,
introducing them to what you're doing, because I just think it's really good.
thank you. I think so too.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting up with you here at the end of the week.
Yeah, you're coming down? You're going to come down and say hi?
Yeah, we are. Yeah,
I'm not going to lie to you, Bernie. I'm very nervous.
You shouldn't be. Well, there going to be all drywall guys there, and
yeah,
a lot of them are going to know who you are and want to talk to you because you would have talked to them somewhere on social media, one way or along.
Yeah. Christy Slade, I think, is going to be there. I'm dying to meet her, and also Sean, Brawley's dad, Drywall. He's kind of a character. He's going to be there, and of course Brian and Phil. And also Brad Hanna and those guys, and also Aaron and Elliot from Columbia. I mean, they're the ones that kind of broke it loose. I started talking with those guys, and just cool guys.
It's a good move for you, that's for sure. I most of the people you've spoke up there, I've either met them or we talked on social media. They're people there's a couple of them there I'd like to meet. And
well, what I'm planning on, is I'll just do a regular straight finish, and then I'll do a sanded finish. Yeah, because this sanded stuff that I'm doing now it's smooth as a board. I mean, it's a really simple, super simple. It looks like kind of like American clay. It's very earthen. You can do a gray and it kind of looks like concrete, but it's very simple. I just want to do like a little bit of testing.
Back in the day, I can tell you this because it was I was still living in Hinton when I first got married. Me and the wife bought a house and we gutted it, and I did a bunch of walls in there with knockdown, and it was called Sandtex. You ever heard of Sandtex? Well, and I was doing it in a knockdown form, and very simple to do a knockdown form with it. But if you run your arms down across that, it's going to rip skin off. But
this is very smooth. It's like, because when you put the sealer on, well, first of all, I'm using a very fine sand, but when you put the sealer on, it smooths out that wall just like wet sanding. It's like compresses the mud and just lays it right down with the edge of your trowel.
This product was more similar to exterior stucco in a sand coat.
Right.
The very fine coat that I would apply with exterior acrylic stucco.
Yeah.
But it was easy to work with, and it did a perfect job. It just laid down because it had some meat to it with all that with the grit that was in it. So it made me think of what you were saying.
Well, make sure and get to me. I'll hold back because I sent up a bunch of product to Brad up there with CSR. Make sure and get to me because I have an extra quart of sealer that I'll make sure that you can have.
Oh, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, you can play around. The Fresco Harmony sealer is really good shit. It's really nice. It doesn't flake. It can withstand a little bit of cold, and it's just really nice to work with. It's really cool stuff.
So you were introducing not flex, but you're introducing tones into that product, right? Like
correct. We have. No, I'm not doing the copper yet. I was having trouble finding a metallic copper, so I'll use Modern Masters metallics because they're very steadfast. You have to be careful with products falling off, because I want something has to have longevity. So if I'm using a product that's going to fall off, basically I'm sort of repurposing a product. But if I'm using a metallic that I was using a Martha Stewart copper from Target because I like the tone of it. and then
Yes.
they'll discontinue it. Like I was using a Valspar copper for a lot of
Yeah.
years, and then they discontinue it. Now I can't get that copper anymore. So
Yeah.
I use Modern Masters. I use the white pearl. I use Gold Rush. I use warm silver, and I use the newer copper as a gold, but it looks like copper. It looks like a copper penny, and
Okay.
so we have 4 different colors, and then I have a smoke. So I'm putting black into the sealer. Very small amount of black.
Yeah.
Makes it so like when you go over like a regular wall, it'll shade it, you know.
Okay. Oh, that'd
And
be
that's
nice.
the colored sealers are really cool. You know,
Yeah.
I'm just saving you the trouble of like coloring it yourself, and I'm measuring it so they're accurate from batch to batch. But you know, I mean, when you're introducing this stuff, it's like, you know, I had to figure out the colors, and people are like, oh, well, I can just dump color into mud. And it's like, well, yeah, sure. Anybody can. But I'm formulating it so that you can duplicate color from batch to batch.
Yeah.
I'm saving you a little bit of trouble there. And also
Yeah.
there's a system and there's a sealer, you know, but
It's
yeah,
really evolved what you're doing. Well,
yeah.
you know, you're introducing different things all the time with your products, right? That's going to make
Yep. And then we also
far
have
more
a
interesting.
liquid sealer too that you can spray. So the
Yeah.
sealers that we use, as you know, are like thick,
Yes.
but now we have a thin sealer that's sprayable.
Okay.
And
You just
it's
put it over the surface and right?
it's for low sheen. So like, you know, when you trowel on a sealer, you have sheen marks, but
Yes.
if you spray on sealer, then you don't have a sheen, and it's
Okay.
it's less durable, but man, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What else were we going to talk about, Bernie?
I
Did we cover it all?
What do you want to know about drywall?
You're looking around. You're looking around like, oh man, it's time to get back to work over here, man. I got empty seams here that are calling my name.
Yeah.
Well, Bernie, hey, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm very much looking forward to meeting you in person at CSR Friday.
Okay.
I can't believe it. How
Right
cool
back
is
at
that? And
Yeah.
this won't drop for a little while, a couple weeks or whatever, but it's been a great interview. I appreciate your time.
It was nice talking to you. Huh?
What is
Oh,
your
words of
pearl?
wisdom.
What is your pearl of wisdom?
I guess it'd be that there's no pleasure in doing shit work or leaving shit work, you know. If you're gonna come to the job, do your best and you know, go home happy at the end of the day.
Pride. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I agree.
It makes me tick, you know.
Yeah.
I may
Yeah.
not be the best, but I sure try to be, because that's why I want to do this. You know?
I love that. I feel like you could just be a full-time like artist if you wanted to, and you could have traveled that path. I love that you like finishing drywall, and that's your passion. Like, you know, that's sort of your real, you know, that's what makes you tick, you know?
Yeah, the art is too, but it's just when I'm ready to do it, and you know,
Yeah.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
I'm excited about what I'm going to do and where I'm going to do it, and it's going to get lit properly.
Yeah.
And because they got to be presented properly, you know. So
yeah.
yeah.
I was thinking about how cool it would be to have all 3 of the drywall artists come and do a collaborative piece in Albuquerque. How fun would that be?
That'd be a hoot.
Wouldn't that be fun? And maybe
we could share our techniques and our ideas.
yeah, I could pitch it to like the New Mexico Museum of Art or something, see if they'd let us have a wall or something cool.
Sure.
Bernie Mitchell out of Buckhorn, Ontario. Thank you so much for being on the Drywall Podcast today.
Okay.
Do you have a YouTube page?
I do.
You do. And what's that?
I haven't used it in years. I don't even know if I could find it. But yeah,
okay.
I do.
What's your website?
And it's berniemitchell.ca.
berniemitchell.ca. And you can also find him on Instagram under the B Mitch handle, and also Facebook. There's a couple of pages on Facebook. I'm sure if you look up Bernie Mitchell, you can see a lot of your cool art.
Yeah, if you brought me up on Google, you'll find all kinds of stuff on me, and I should be at the top of the list. Like when you Google.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're curious about these articles, or I'm sure you could look up Bernie Mitchell, San Francisco Globe, and that article would come up also. Thank you so much. And shoot, man, we'll see you in a couple days at CSR.
Looking forward to it, Nick.
All right, Bernie. Okay. You have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, take care.
All right, bye. Special thanks to Bernie Mitchell for being on the Drywall Podcast today. I appreciate your time and your insight. So cool to learn about your amazing path. The Drywall Podcast was brought to you today by Fresco Harmony. Fresco Harmony, making walls better since 2004. If you want to learn more about Fresco Harmony, the Drywall Podcast, or anything, you can reach me at info@frescoharmony.com. You can listen to the Drywall Podcast every Friday on your favorite platforms such as Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and also YouTube. Tune into the Drywall Podcast next week. We will have Brawley's Dad Construction, or Ramsden, Sean Ramsden, with us on the 30th episode of the Drywall Podcast. Until then, keep drywalling.